Hello again, I'm Martin Romjue, editor of LCT Magazine, and we're once again continuing our educational series with operators from around the country on all types of different topics. Today I'm joined by Dan Goff of Goff Transportation in Charlottesville, Virginia. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Good to see you, Martin.
So you've obviously had a lot of experience with motor coaches and the Prevost that we're sitting in, and selling the coaches. And this industry, of course, has many operators who are now moving into luxury coach service. Although it's a big topic, what are some of the key steps for a limo operator who has done all types of chauffeured vehicles to build a profitable coach service?
Sure. We got into the limousine business as owners in 2000. We got our first minibuses in 2001, our first motor coaches in 2002, and bought the only local competitor in 2003. So we've been a matrix fleet for a lot longer than a lot of the other operators. And then we opened a dealership selling livery vehicles, which now includes a lot of coaches, in 2006. And so we've helped a lot of people make that transition. And when I talk to people, the first thing that I try to get them to focus on, I do it with a little story. And it's a story that we all went through. When each of us started, we would come home and talk to our spouse and say, we did 3 runs today. And then, a few months or a year later, we'd come home and say, we did $10,000 this month. And then, maybe in a year or two, we would come home and say, we did $500,000 in sales this year. A few years go by, and they come home and they finally start catching on, and they say, we had a 14% profit margin, right? And we made $128,000. And that's where they stop in the limo business, at profit. The motor coach business is about wealth, not just profit. And that extra step involves buying your buildings, building your shop, buying motor coaches where the equity doesn't drop like a rock. We have a friend in the business, Jason Chernow. He is buying new motor coaches on 3-year financing, right? Brand new motor coach. Now, you think those are big payments? Those are really big payments. And he has a limousine company, and he said, I don't need to make money out of my motor coach business right away. But 3 years from now, I'm going to look out my window and there's $3 million sitting out there, right? So that's the big hump for limo operators, is to change the KPI to wealth, right? We have installations in multiple towns. We own the buildings in all those towns. The motor coaches help pay for that. So it's really about building wealth. Now you need all the standard financial things. I mean, you need to sell more than you pay, right? It's really pretty much that simple. But it's a longer thought process. Not where am I going to be at the end of the year, where am I going to be in 4 years? And the motor coach business is very helpful because the resale value on the units, up in Altoona, Pennsylvania, they test motor coaches, transit buses, things like that. They say a coach like this that we're on is safe to drive 50 years from now, right? So the cities that buy this type of coach can get 25-year financing because the federal government will give them what's called half-life, right? So there's not another vehicle out here on the show floor that's likely to be in service in 50 years. Right? But these motor coaches can. So it's a different thing, a longer term thing. Most motor coach businesses in the old motor coach world are generational, 3rd generation, in business since 1929, that sort of thing. And I'm really delighted to see a lot of the customers that we have, both farm-in customers and customers of SuperMax Motors, becoming multi-generational. I'm seeing their kids out here at the show now, and I'm knowing that those businesses are going to be there for those kids because the equipment and the customer base underpinning those businesses are going to be there that long.
So when an operator wants to buy their first bus, what are some of the ideal variables of the sweet spot in terms of cost, mileage, payments, age? Unless they can afford a $600,000 new bus right off the top, what would you recommend as the ideal first bus
Right.
for limo operation?
So it's market dependent. Some people, like Gary Buffo, can buy not just one $600,000 bus, but 17 $600,000 buses, because he's in a market where that's going to pay. Somebody in Athens, Georgia, maybe should start out with a $25,000 bus. A lot of it depends on the contracts. The motor coach business, so many people, when I do these seminars, come up afterwards and say, how much business should I have, should I be farming out in order to buy a bus? And the answer is zero, right? Because you get a whole new world of customers. So today, our biggest customers on the bus side, prison inmates, military contractors, universities, tugboat operators. Now, how many of those customers, with the exception of maybe a little bit on the university, are renting sedans and getting farm-in business on? So a whole new world opens up. And the truth is that the average limousine operator who's come to these shows, who's been in your seminars, who's followed the white papers, who's done the right things, is really in a better position to deliver better customer service, more likely to be on time early. Chauffeurs, or bus captains as we call them, are more likely to look appropriate and deliver appropriate customer service. So it's really easy pickings in the bus business, so what you're seeing is limousine operators are growing dramatically. Now, one bus, and disclaimer here that I sell this bus, right? But one bus that's making huge inroads in the limousine market right now for limousine operators is a Volvo 9700. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that Volvo owns the Prevost bus, owns the company that built this bus. They're a worldwide company, second largest manufacturer of commercial vehicles, service centers all over the world, installed knowledge base on technicians and drivers everywhere. So it's not like you're buying a bus that sells 200 buses a year, right? So the Volvo 9700, you're going to find people to drive it, you're going to find people to work on it. If you are on a 15-day charter and you have a problem and you need to pull into a service center, it's the same engine, same transmission. And the funny thing is, I have a friend in New Mexico, Paul Thompson. He serves a lot of high-end hotels. And he said, man, when you pull up to a hotel and it has a Volvo nameplate on the front, they know that means luxury. They know that's a top-of-the-market product. But it's actually less expensive than the Prevost, right? There's only one, and another thing about the Volvo 9700 that's great, and it's very helpful for limousine operators to get in the business, is there's only one model. Right? All of us remember the 1998 to 2011 Lincoln Town Car. We lived high on the hog because the model looked pretty much the same. You could run it in your fleet for a long time. It had good resale value. There'd be somebody after you. The Volvo 9700 is the same way, right? You can pull up in a 2009 Volvo 9700 or a 2019, same body style, and it's a sexy look. So the Volvo 9700 is making big strides in the limousine business because of those things. But an MCI, a Van Hool, a Prevost, a Volvo, less so the Setras these days because of some ownership changes, but still they're built by Mercedes. Those are your prime ones. What you don't want to do is buy an off-brand mark, right? Because then, like I've heard of this one particular bus, I won't mention the name of it, a 9-month wait for a cracked rear window. Yeah.
That's almost unheard of.
Right. So stick with the major manufacturers, and the Volvo 9700 is, in my opinion, the new Lincoln Town Car for the limousine industry. They look great. They've got that Volvo mark on them. They're approachable in price. So yeah, and to give you an idea, I can sell somebody today a 2015 Volvo 9700 for 2/3 the price of some of these new minibuses out on the lot, right? Maybe that bus has got 200,000 miles on it, which means it's only going to go another 3 million, right? So that's a nice, approachable number, easy to finance. Lots of people stand in line to finance it. Some of the minibuses, and the minibus market's been great for limo operators, but they're difficult to finance because resale value on an 11-year-old minibus is hard, right? But an 11-year-old motor coach, there's still people standing in line to finance those, right? So it's a wealth play. And stick with the core product, deliver the great service that we're known for, and then you come to the shows and get that knowledge, right? You learn so much here, you apply it, and it's really, like I said, it's easy pickings. Because the motor coach people, they're looking at us like we looked at Uber. Who are these people? They'll never make it. Well, we weren't right, and they're not right, right? We're going to make it just fine.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential
Absolutely.
in this industry. You mentioned military contractors. I know we were talking a while back about the contract you have in Norfolk, Virginia. For those operators who want to use their coaches to serve military clients, what are some of the key steps to getting to that level?
Go on Google and type in military bus contract. You can download it. You can apply. There used to be a very rigorous third-party inspection every year. They've done away with that. That's primarily for troop movements, right? Be prepared to carry loaded weapons, right, in the luggage bays. Fortunately, and I'm a veteran, as you know, fortunately, we're not moving so many people out to go fight for us overseas. But it's cyclical, and we will, again, and when we do, troops have to be moved. And so there's a lot of business on the military side. Our contract is on an even bigger pool, where we're serving as a subcontractor, in this case to a hotel, for military contractors. So you don't necessarily have to go direct to the military. There are a lot of people who have contracts, construction contracts. In our case, they're working on ships, right? So they're bringing in contractors to work on ships. And our contract is 2 to 5 buses every day for 5 years, right? And I have to tell you, those buses go out with the same driving staff, the same buses, and that my receivables grow, and then they go down, and they grow, and they go down, and my monthly gross grows. And it's so much less work than talking to, Bob and Mary or Bob and Joe about their wedding, right? Not there's anything wrong with that business, right? The wedding business is fine business, but it's so much work for a $900 job or a $1,500 job, right? Once you set these either military contracts or subcontracts or large contracts like that, then once you set it up, then it just keeps going. And like I said, it's any kind of governmental thing. Right now, we are in an economic expansion, and we've also made it scary to come to this country to work. So we have a shortage of workers. So one thing that's growing, and we're benefiting from it, we have 2 contracts, is inmate transportation. And I'm not talking about taking them to jail, I'm talking about taking them from jail to the local warehouse where they work on manufacturing, right? Every day we show up at detention centers, and inmates come out, and we take them to work at public facilities, and when they're off, we take them back. And we don't provide water and mints on those trips. But
you don't know what they'll do with them.
Now, most of the people that we travel, that we take on inmate transportation, the last thing in the world they're going to do is be a problem, because they're 6 months from getting out. They're nonviolent offenders. The point is that whether it's my tugboat captains that are coming in on the eastern seaboard up and down and we're taking them back, or it's inmates, or it's military contractors, there's a whole new world of customers. And you should not base the theory of getting into the bus business on how much you're farming out, right? Because that's going to be a very small percentage of what your overall gross ends up being.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the LCT shows and what keeps you coming back every year.
19 years. This is my 19th year coming to the show. And for the first few years, I came to see. Then for several years, I came to be seen. I sponsored keynote speakers. I did bag stuffers and that sort of thing. And our farm-in business, you know, the return on investment was crazy. It's like you put $15,000 into a big show rollout, and you got $400,000 more in revenue on farm-in from people that you never met before, right? But there is a ceiling on that, right? In the markets that we serve, Norfolk, Richmond, Charlottesville, there's a ceiling on how much farm-in comes in. And I think we get most of it, right? So now I come to the shows to give back. I do, as you know, a lot of seminars, a lot of roundtables, a lot of groups. I share what I've learned with other people. And there's a lot of joy in that. And there's an added benefit, you know, now that we've gotten our contract with Prevost, we're Prevost's only wholesale dealer in the United States now. I found out this week that we're the only one. Now that we got that contract, I'm actually growing a customer base of people who are buying wholesale units from us that have seen us or been exposed to us from giving back in the seminars. So yeah, LCT has been our partner since 2000.
Good. Well, we look forward to seeing you next year and beyond. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right.